Hey everybody, Some Gadget Guy here, and welcome to the very first ever Some Gadget Guy viewer comment and question chat. I need to come up with a better name for what will hopefully be a semi-regular or weekly series, but it was just really exciting looking back over my stats again. I start too many videos with like, hey, look at my stats, but I'm fielding over 200 comments a day, and I'm answering most of them, which is becoming a part-time job all into itself. So I thought, just for the people out there that are getting into some phenomenal discussion, asking some brilliant questions, really engaging, not the people that are being crappy little trolls, really wanted to find some way celebrating the community of people that are starting to follow my channel. And I thought one of the ways that I could maybe do that would be to jump in and start taking some of my favorite comments and questions and showcasing them in a little weekly series. And that's what we're going to be doing, hopefully, for as long as I'm producing YouTube videos. Now, before we jump into the actual questions, I do want to do just a little bit of housekeeping in that next month, August, I will be getting older, and my birthday's in August, and I am hosting a major contest on this channel. This is the first that I'm actually saying anything on YouTube. I actually teased it on I've teased it on Periscope a couple times now, but I took one of my Periscope unboxings and I put it up on YouTube just to see, what people might think of that. It's terrible video quality. I don't know that I'm going to keep up moving Periscope videos to YouTube because they're proper awful, and Periscope is doing a horrible job of training people to shoot video in portrait mode, and I very much disagree with that practice. Every time you shoot video in portrait mode, God kills an orphan girl's kitten, and I don't understand why people seem to hate orphan kittens, but I digress. So I'm really excited. I'm going to be turning my birthday week into a huge round of giveaways on this channel. So it's my birthday, but I'm giving you guys the presents, and I've got some really exciting stuff coming down the pipe. And these are a few of the examples of things that we'll be giving away in the first week of August. So first is a stylus metal camera case, and I did a review on this. You can find the review on this channel. I'll link it down below this video. And it's a metal and rubber armor case that goes around your iPhone 6, and then has a whole series of little swing out lenses that flip in front of the iPhone camera and give you wide angle, fisheye, and some amazing macro shots. This is one of the best macro lenses I've played with on any smartphone system. So that's going to be really exciting. The entire case system is around $150, so you could maybe pick one up for free, especially because for all of you folks out there who know I'm not the biggest iPhone fan, I want to show some of my subscribers who are iPhone fans a little love there. And then my pals at LG, I've got like a box of stuff here. My pals at LG sent over some of their VR headsets for the G3. In fact, let me get the full stack out. I've got 4 of these VR headsets for the G3. So if you're rocking a G3 and you'd like to play with some of the Google Cardboard stuff out there, you do some really cool immersive video watching, especially now that we've got YouTube 360 built in. You can look around videos. I've got some videos on here where you can actually see, like I've got a driving video going through Hollywood, and you can look all around the video. It's really cool stuff. And this is a pretty decently high quality plastic version of Google Cardboard for your G3. Especially nice as the G3 has a slightly higher screen resolution. But if you don't have a G3 to use one of these VR headsets with, I'm going to pair one of these VR headsets with an LG G3, courtesy of my pals at LG. So they gave me a little combo here to give away as well. So if you would like to be rocking, it's a year-old phone, but if you'd like to be rocking a newer phone and a VR headset, that's definitely something that you should be on the lookout for as well during the Some Gadget Guy birthday month of giveaways. And lastly, my pals at AT&T, they're showing some love to HTC right now. I've got it over here on the side. I've got too much stuff on this table. I'm worried about a landslide of gadgety stuff. So I finally got my hands on an HTC One M9, and it's actually a pretty decent phone. I'm digging it. There are going to be some criticisms when I get the full review out, but it's a nice enough affair. And in showing HTC a little bit of love, AT&T is hooking me up with an HTC One M9 to give away to one of my subscribers on this channel, which will also be giving away during the Some Gadget Guy August birthday month of terrific giveaways. So as I get more information on how those giveaways are going to be put out and how they're going to be structured, I've got a bunch of other little things too. So if you're not following me on Twitter or on Google Plus or on Instagram, I'm going to be doing an Instagram giveaway too. There's going to be a bunch of little things going out throughout that entire first week of August. And I'm back. So, folks, first, that be on the lookout for the contest. Contest is going to be fun. Tons of cool stuff that we're going to be giving away. Think you're going to dig it. So, second of all, so I almost said first of all again. First of all, part two. Today is the day before the 4th of July in the United States. So I hope my subscribers and my fans watching in North America have some cool barbecuing activities to jump in on, or for us, we're probably going to be going out with some of our friends to catch some Mexican food, just to flip a giant middle finger to Donald Trump. But above all else, I hope for all of the people that watch my channel in the United States that tomorrow you are safe, you are well fed, that you don't catch yourself on fire with explosive devices, and that you are doing something you love with people you care about, or if you prefer, you'd rather just be by yourself and that's how you want to celebrate, whatever that may be. I hope that you are finding something really fun and crazy to do. But around the world, today is also a number of various other holidays. American Samoa, this is their Independence Day. Belarus, this is their Independence Day. Guam is Independence Day holiday. Marshall Islands is Fisherman's Day. So get out there and give your favorite fisherman a hug if you're in the Marshall Islands. The Northern Mariana Islands is also an Independence Day. And the U.S. Virgin Islands, this is their Emancipation Day. And lastly, this is a bank holiday in Greece. It's just a little awkward. Greek bank holiday. I really hope they get their bank issues sorted out. Pulling for you, Greece. So on to the questions questions and comments from viewers. When I get better at putting these together, I'll probably have fancier graphics typed out. But for various videos, and I'll have the questions and the videos linked below. The first question, or it's kind of a question and a dig and a comment all at the same time. I produced a video on USB audio on Android. So moving into Android 5.0, Google has finally gotten on board, allowing us to plug in better audio hardware over USB. Get a little micro USB adapter, an OTG adapter, and Android will finally recognize USB mics and USB speakers. And so Alex writes, sorry, but what is so big news about it? They didn't make possible to record video using USB audio mic. That is the main goal. Recording on the device early with mic and after transfer in the phone or tablet later, it's the same thing, so no big deal. And I don't disagree, Alex. I think USB audio recording while shooting video is certainly an important feature. But I actually disagree with the notion that it's the main issue, that it's the big deal. There are a number of applications where having higher quality audio or having more flexible audio would definitely be a benefit on Android, regardless of whether or not we're shooting video. I come from a production background in voiceover. I'm a voiceover director and I do a lot of voiceover casting. And in working with actors, we're constantly trying to find solid ways of moving that experience mobile. So if you're traveling, but you don't want to miss out on a voiceover audition, right now, the gold standard is using something like your iPhone or your iPad, because Apple very, very early in the iPhone's run, they did a really good job of incorporating USB audio. That's a feature that has been absent the Android community. And there are a number of voiceover performers who would probably prefer being on an Android device, but the quality of service that you get in USB audio on iOS and the myriad number of solutions, both for hardware dedicated for the iPhone and software, the number of apps that you can use for recording and editing is just extreme. So that's one potential usage where bringing USB audio to Android is going to eventually be very, very well appreciated. But you could also look at some other situations too, like car audio. Having some sort of standard basic USB audio interface will make it easier for us to integrate Android devices with automobile manufacturers once we kind of get everyone on board. This is USB audio input output. And that's another example of something that will be improved by having better capabilities there. And then lastly, just a better consumer listening experience. So you could take something here, I think I've got it over here on the side. You could take something like a USB DAC. So let's say your phone doesn't have the best headphone jack, but you can support an OTG device. Then you can take this is actually the one that I stole from the Kingston HyperX Cloud 2 headphones. Comes with like a little USB mini sound card thing. So you can plug this into your phone, and then it will use the audio hardware here for when you're listening to music, as opposed to the headphone jack built into your phone. You could improve the quality of your listening that way. And ditto, the same thing goes for tablets. So, you know, there are a number of situations where I feel this would be of benefit. Though I do disagree. I do agree with the sentiment that it would be nice if we could move that over to video as well. At the moment, the only thing that we can do to change or improve audio on Android while shooting video is just to pop in the 3.5 millimeter jack. So the headphone jack, I've done a number of videos using a gamer headset, actually my V-Moda M100s. I wear those M100s and I plug the headphone jack into the camera. And that way, like if I'm shooting video at E3 or at CES, I'm not using the mics built into the phone, which is going to pick up the whole crowd. I've got a little mic right in front of my face, and you can still hear the crowd, but I'm way louder than the crowd. I'm way louder than the crowd anyway. So moving on to the next question. This is on my Lenovo Yoga 3 review. I have to be careful. When I say it too fast, I say Lenovo. Lenovo Yoga 3. Oh, God, I'm such a dumb American. And this comes courtesy of Matt Fong, who writes, hi, Juan. This is a laptop I've been considering purchasing for mostly Microsoft Office work and web browsing. With the Core M processor, I've heard that because of the low TDP, the performance of the laptop can take a hit as soon as things start heating up. Have you ever come across this problem before? And if so, what were you doing to cause the computer to heat up? Would you recommend this laptop for people who want to use it mostly for office over other alternatives? Thanks for your feedback. So this is I get a ton of questions on, would you recommend this phone for me? Or would you recommend this laptop for me? Or what do you think I should buy, this or that? And I really want to be respectful, and I really want to be careful about how I answer those questions, because my usages are very specific to me, and having a ton of glowing rectangles around me at all times, my perspective is a little bit warped when compared to sort of a regular consumer who has to throw their own money at these products. That being said, it also kind of bothers me when we start talking about price, performance, things like overheating. What we push our gadgets to do while we review them is very much different than how they're sort of generally consumed in more real world conditions. And I found a number of the conversations we started talking about, like the like the HTC One M9, and I've got the G Flex 2. So okay, when it comes to high performance hardware, we all know that Qualcomm's 810 series processor runs warmer and can throttle down when it's being used hot, and that the performance, once it throttles down, suffers, and it drops the performance, around where like a Qualcomm 801 might perform, not even the 805. Sometimes some people say it drops worse than the 801, and it's like worse than the 800. But we really are talking about specific usage patterns and behaviors, and I think the Core M also kind of falls into this category too. We're seeing devices like this Yoga 3. It's a really cool flip around screen. You can use it as a tablet. You can use it in sort of like a stand mode if you just want to have like kind of a kiosk setup. The build idea behind this laptop is one of portability and versatility. This is not a power user device. This is not going to compete with a gaming laptop or a mobile workstation. And so what we're looking at is you are making a choice as a consumer to focus on portability. You're focusing on battery life because it runs lower, so that conceivably will get better battery life, and that you can start working towards things like having a fanless design. So it's much, much quieter. This is more robust hardware than many consumer grade tablets. You can do more on this than you can, say, an iPad. It's more versatile hardware than many Android tablets. So when we're playing with solutions like that, we're going to see a lot of overlap. And some of those prices won't make sense when we start talking about more expensive laptops versus less expensive tablets. But we want to focus on what are the usage scenarios that you're trying to achieve, that you're trying to accomplish, so that we can make a wise purchasing decision and we don't get bogged down in, well, a gamer blogger said that this wasn't good because it slowed way down. Fair enough. But were you planning on trying to run Crysis on this thing? If you weren't, then that probably wasn't the most valuable. We all have this notion that we want the best, or like we want the best bang for buck. And no one really wants to entertain a conversation on compromises because every gadget comes with some compromises. I got into a very terse discussion with one of the viewers on my channel because I suggested the Galaxy S6 had some compromises. And he seemed to get really offended by that sentiment, as if I was saying there was something wrong with the product. It's not that there's something wrong with a product. It's that every product comes with design choices, and those design choices have pros and cons. So, Matt, that was a long, rambling way to get back to your question. If we're focusing mostly on office work, I have logged a ton of writing on this thing in Microsoft Office. I'm not the biggest Excel user, and I don't really touch PowerPoint at all, but this thing was a champ for Word. So I would imagine that, if we're looking at student style scenarios, or if, you're a writer, or if you just want to take care of the family finances on Excel, this thing would be perfectly adept at keeping up with that style of usage, giving you a little bit more flexibility than a consumer tablet, and a pretty decent battery runtime out in the field so that you don't have to feel like you're always running for a charger. So, and the hardware feature set is actually pretty cool, especially once we start comparing it to something like a MacBook Air, where we'll have a couple extra USB ports to play with, a memory card reader, and I believe that's a micro HDMI. So it's a little bit more of a flexible setup too, while we all wait for people to get on board USB-C. I don't know that I would be overly concerned with that usage, but depending on your budget, you also might want to check out some of the Atom powered processor. They will definitely be slower than a Core M, but if you're focusing mostly on Word, you might be able to save a little cash there. And then I also wouldn't put a Core i5 outside of the realm of possibility if you're worried about the Yoga 3 maybe not lasting as well over time. If you're trying to get the longest runtime investment, maybe you make a compromise. See, there's that word again. You make a compromise on having a slightly larger system, or a slightly heavier system, or a slightly less flexible system. But you can maybe save a little cash going to Core i5 and dealing with fan noise. So those are the kinds of compromises, or the kinds of discussions that I hope to get into, in that I don't feel it's responsible of me to say, yes, buy it. No, don't buy it. Yes, it'll work for you. No, it won't. But I can be a valuable resource in answering some of the more specific questions that can then lead you into making that purchasing decision. And so right into the next question, I did a long-term review on the Kyocera Brigadier. And Josh on my long-term review writes, do you still think this phone stands up to the other rugged options? I'm looking at getting a new work phone. So this is, again, a perfect example of a very dangerous question for me to just answer yes or no, because in standing up to other rugged options, we just got our hands on the Galaxy S6 Active. We just produced a review on this. The Kyocera Brigadier, when it was released last year, was a mid-range phone last year. This is a top-of-the-line flagship device with a little extra armor plating released this year. So if we're talking about the phone technologies, there's no choice. The Galaxy S6 is going to win every single fight. It's got a better screen. It's got a better camera. It has a bigger battery. I think the only fight in terms of the technologies that the Kyocera is going to win is having the micro SD card slot so that you can expand storage. So, if we're talking about phones, then no, the Kyocera probably isn't the better phone. But if we phrase a question around ruggedness, then I still think the Kyocera is putting up a very compelling offering in this day and age. It's a big, chunky, fat device. It's bumper plated all the way around. And I really dig the notion of having sapphire on the screen. I know Corning, the people who make Gorilla Glass are talking up their next variant of Gorilla Glass, which is going to be, they say, is going to be as hard as sapphire. That's cool. I hope that we see it. I hope that we see it soon. Like, there are rumors that we might get that on the Galaxy Note 5. I don't know that that's very likely, but I'm hoping that we'll see stuff like that, because after playing with the Kyocera Brigadier, I refuse to torture test any other glass screen phone. Glass is glass. It doesn't matter if it's Gorilla Glass. It doesn't matter if it's fancy glass. There are a number of manufacturers in China who are doing similar ion enhanced and chemically strengthened glass with different types of coatings. And the second you take a rock to one of those screens, something that's harder than glass, you're going to have a bad day. I took a hunk of concrete to this screen and raked it across the screen. I have a video on this channel, and it's still pristine. It's still almost completely mark free. There's a tiny little like hairline scratch in the middle where I was raking it pretty hard. But that's something that absolutely would have destroyed any other glass screen. So I've been way harder on this phone. This is my favorite. I'm going to go out for a hike phone, to know that it's water resistant, it's drop resistant. It's, I don't have to worry about dropping it on rocks and getting scratches and nicks. The plastic is just gouged up like crazy. I can show you that, just because I have been super rough on this phone, but I don't fear that it's going to be damaged when I'm out in the field. So for Josh's, again, man, I'm getting really long-winded and rambly here. For Josh's question, do I still think this phone stands up? If we're focused on the rugged options and the phone calling options, then yeah, I think the Brigadier is still a perfectly compelling solution in this day and age. If we're looking more at things like you need to have waterproof and a really nice camera, then we need to start looking at some of the other solutions like the Galaxy S6 Active. And moving into one of my comparison videos, again, a slightly older video on mine, but I just kind of wanted to discuss this because I get a lot of comments on things like this. I did a comparison on the Lumia 1520 and the Galaxy Note 4. And in that comparison, I made a comment about quad HD screens versus 1080p screens, which I don't think my audience will ever fully let me live down. I actually have, oh yeah, here's my note. So here is my 1520. Here is my Note 4. The Note 4 has a quad HD screen. The 1020 has a 1080p display. And during the video, I said that I wasn't seeing much of a difference. People have taken that to mean that I see no difference, that I'm incapable of seeing the difference between a quad HD screen and a 1080p display. And that's not what I'm saying. I can see a difference. In daily use and in general use, I cannot see much of a difference. And I know people have made comments like, well, you need to use high resolution images, or you need to use a high resolution wallpaper. Even still, the amount of information that we see on the screen at quad HD when we're holding the phone at a reasonable distance from our face, the distance that we would normally hold the phone at, I'm not seeing such a compelling difference. This is not like the jump from 720p to 1080p, where even on a 4.7-inch screen, if you compare the iPhone 6 screen to the HTC One M7, the M7 is a much clearer victor, in my opinion, than when we compare a quad HD screen at a similar size to a 1080p screen at a similar size. And so once we start working into that pixel pitch, using it as a phone, I don't see where the extra processor overhead, the extra resources needed to build out that screen, the extra costs, really provide such a substantially better experience. Is it a better experience? Scientifically, yes, that is objective. There is no argument. It is the better screen. But subjectively, in my opinion, I don't see where it's so much better that it warrants the trade-offs, that it warrants the bigger hit on the battery, that it warrants, sometimes we get into lags and stutters and hitches just because the screen, the processor and the GPU are having to work a little bit harder. And I don't think it brings enough to the table when used as a phone to really make that a compromise that I'm super excited about. Some of the newer processors, like using the G4, I haven't run into any significant issues. The Galaxy S6, I think The issues I've had with the Galaxy X S6 are a trio of bad decisions on Samsung's part. Well, not completely. One, I think Android 5.0 still has some problems. Two, I'm not the biggest fan of TouchWiz, and some of the choices like putting Flipboard on your home screen are instantly going to give the phone the impression that it lags when it has to update information on Flipboard. And then three, I don't know what Samsung's doing with their kernel, but every time I've seen someone say I get amazing battery life with the Galaxy S6 or I get amazing performance with the Galaxy S6, it's usually because they're putting on a different ROM, which involves a better kernel. So I don't know what Samsung's doing in there. But it seems to be degrading performance. But I digress. The one thing that I will point to for a quad HD screen are when we start playing with things like virtual reality. So that is not a common phone use scenario, but when you fire up something like Cardboard and you're using your phone as the display in Cardboard, that's where having some extra dots on the screen is a tremendous benefit because the phone is super close to your face and you're probably using some type of magnification on that screen. So those individual pixels become a little bit more problematic when we have a bigger, lower resolution display. That is hysterical that my camera white balance changes so severely when I hold up a yellow phone. Let's see if it goes back. Okay, so it's warmer. It's colder. That's awesome. This is such a crappy webcam. All right. I've got so J Buggy Buggiee. He wrote a comment. I have a note for, and I can see the difference with the quad HD display, and I have 20/20 vision. Again, the point I'm trying to make here, folks, is that it's not that I can't see a difference. It's that I don't think the difference is enough of a difference to warrant some of the hits until we get better SoC, until we get some better processors, some better multitasking RAM management, better kernels that take advantage of some of these hardware advancements. Those are the types of things that I think we need to see, and also hopefully some larger batteries, just because batteries are actually getting better, but they're not getting better as fast as the amount of stuff that we do with our phones. So every day we're finding new ways to use our phone, which are going to tax our battery. Quad HD screen is a part of that discussion in killing your battery life, even though you probably have a larger battery on this phone than you do with your last phone. I'm going to take a quick sip of coffee here. And so I do a whole series of speaker reviews. And on my Galaxy Alpha speaker review, I actually don't have an Alpha to show off right now. My Galaxy Alpha review, I got a comment from Hi, I'm Jean, who writes, I'm currently using the HTC One Mini, which I also don't have a One Mini anymore, with front speakers. I watch a lot of movies, series, and streams in my bed. I am now afraid that this movie watching will be a lot worse without those speakers. Can you take my fear in any way? I think he means, can you take my fear away? I don't know. Or can you give me some advice? And unfortunately, no, I can't take that fear away. I am a big critic of pointing our speakers in the wrong direction. It's upsetting to me that so few manufacturers have figured out that audio should come from where the screen is pointed. We seem to have figured this out on TVs. It's not like you point speakers behind your TV. And we seem to have figured this out on a number of tablets just because we have the extra space. And I know that we run into issues where people will complain about like forehead and chin on an HTC. These devices are longer than they really need to be. Well, longer than some people feel they need to be. And you can kind of see there, it's almost the same height as an LG G4. Even though it has a smaller screen and the G4 has a bigger screen, those speakers take up space. I totally appreciate that. But other manufacturers have started working towards that too. I'm going to be finishing up my long-term review on the Idol 3 from Alcatel. And so the screen to bezel ratio, or the screen to body ratio on this, is one of the best on the market today. In fact, it's the screen to body ratio is better on the Alcatel by like 0.2% than it is on the G4 for a budget handset. And that includes front-facing stereo speakers. So some manufacturers are starting to figure this out. We like to hear audio pointing into our face when we're looking at the screen. So moving from the HTC One Mini, you could stick with HTC. I would maybe recommend an M8 If you're looking for budget options, sorry, if you're looking for budget options, I would maybe recommend an M8, one of the Desire phones. You could look at the Alcatel. The Idol 3 has front-facing speakers. You could probably score a pretty decent deal on a Moto X. Moto X 2014, which it doesn't have stereo speakers, but the main loudspeaker also points forward. It doesn't point out the back of the phone. When you're laying in bed or when you're holding your phone, when you're trying to game, having a rear-facing speaker or a bottom-firing speaker is going to be a pain because there's a lot of material like your sheets, your comforter, your pillows, which do a pretty good job of absorbing sound. So when the audio isn't firing towards your face, it's firing off in a direction which is probably going to get absorbed by other material. So I would probably recommend, if that is a huge feature for you, like that's one of your favorite things to do is to take your phone and watch some Netflix in bed, I would probably recommend away from something like an LG or a Samsung until they figure out how to put a speaker on the front of the phone. But you have a couple other options there. I mean, you could even pick up something as goofy as like a Kyocera, like a Duraforce or a Brigadier or one of the newer Torx, because this whole bottom strip is just a loudspeaker and there is no rear firing speaker. But hopefully at some point, I would hope, that's maybe the worst sentence I've ever put together on this channel. So, looking at something like the Galaxy S6 Active, and I think this is a good example of where we can make a compromise in building out. This has a pretty big forehead and a pretty big chin because of these hardware clicky buttons. And we have a decent camera up here at the top, but there's no reason why this speaker really needs to exist anymore. The earpiece speaker for phone calls. We could take the really big speaker off of the back of the phone, just get rid of any speaker on the back or bottom of the phone, and just replace it up here. So we pull out the tiny quiet speaker that we use for phone calls. We put in the big loudspeaker. And then think about those times where you've needed to use speakerphone out in public because it's really loud. So you see people flip their phones around and they try and line up this speaker somehow with their ear, and they're doing this dance, or they're flipping the phone upside down. They're doing something with the back of the phone and the front of the phone's pointing out so you can hear the phone call. Maybe they didn't have a headset. You wouldn't need to do that anymore. If you flip it into speakerphone, the screen is still pointing towards you, so you can still do things like write notes or, you do whatever you need to do on your screen, and you would have the full speakerphone coming at your face. I think that would be more beneficial. And then when you're using it for content, you're trying to do some gaming, something like that, the audio is pointing towards your face. I think it would be a much better overall experience, even better than some of the other phones that have had front-facing speakers but mount them down here at the bottom of the phone. There's no point in having a tiny earpiece speaker at the top of the phone. I know the loudspeakers take up more space, but you would also be saving space by moving stuff around internally, not having to have that big loudspeaker usually at the bottom of the phone. So, John, you have a couple options. You have a couple decent budget options, or also a couple flagship options if you want to step up to an M9 or something like that. You can, but moving from an HTC One Mini, I think you dig on something like an Alcatel Idol 3 or even an HTC One M8. I think they would offer up a nice upgrade over what you're currently using. And so before we wrap up, I've gotten two general questions. A number of people have asked these questions before. All right, let me pull this back up here. I totally lost what the next question is. Okay, so a number of people have asked these questions on some of my videos. The first one that I get a lot of is when I do speaker tests, because I do a very simple speaker test where I just play movie audio and then I just play music audio. I don't talk over it. I don't give awards or rank phones. I leave the listening up to you guys and having a consistent test, which is performed almost exactly the same with every single phone, so you can get a sense of what phones you like better. But I only do individual phones. And the reason why I do that, and I get a number of comments like, well, why didn't you compare the One M9 to the One M8? Or how come you didn't do the Alcatel versus the HTC? And I'm kind of embarrassed for folks that ask questions like that, because the whole reason why I did individual phones is so that you, the viewer, can compare exactly the devices that you want. I mean, maybe there's someone out there who really desperately needs to hear the difference between a Kyocera Brigadier and a Lumia 1520. I just bumped the mic. Maybe there is that person, but you know what? If I do a standalone video, like I actually take the time to record and edit a comparison video between these two phones just for their speaker, that's a lot of work for me that I'm probably only going to get like 10 views. But what I can do is make sure that that test stays as consistent as possible. So for the 5 or 6 people who asked this just last week, let alone over the life of my channel, the years that I've been producing videos, go through. I've got a playlist. I'll link the playlist if you need me to. I've got a playlist on every single device that I've ever recorded through that test. That includes phones, that includes a couple tablets, that includes laptops, that includes Bluetooth speakers. And what you can do is you can compare directly. If you want to see how if you want to see how this Lenovo sounds against an HTC One M9, you can. And it's the exact same test, recorded under the exact same conditions and normalized to the exact same levels, so that you will get a very clear sense of what these two things sound like opposite each other in sort of a not real life, but in a nicely sort of open office or small bedroom kind of sound. So that's the first one. You can create your own tests. Put one in one tab, put one in another, and you can compare to your heart's content with every single device that I've ever run through any of those tests. The second one is, will games run on it? And this is where I get a little spiky PC Master Race for Lifey. I've done reviews on desktop machines, on all-in-one PCs, on laptops, and I get tons of questions on, will this run Minecraft, or will this run? Someone asked me if it would run Doom, and I really couldn't tell if they were making fun of me. But anyway, the short answer to almost all of those questions, unless we're talking about ultra portables, is probably yes. But will they run to the specs that you want? Again, this isn't a console. When we're talking about a PC, we're talking about a much more general purpose computing device that can do things like gaming. But if you're trying to get 1080 HD gameplay at 60 frames per second, maybe it won't do that. But you could still probably have a reasonable gaming experience on an entry level or mid range PC. So long as you keep your expectations in check, you'll probably be fine. But that's something that I don't know that people fully understand when they're starting to shop PC gaming hardware or PCs for gaming, is that we have a little bit more flexibility. It's not like a console where you just pop in a game and then it plays, or you download a game and then it plays because it was built for that console. PCs, we have a slightly wider spectrum of thresholds. And again, we have to have a conversation with a little bit more nuance. You can bump up the frame rate, you can bump up the quality settings, you can do different things to make sure your experience is what you want. Maybe you're fine with the occasional lag or stutter in a certain type of game because you want prettier graphics. You can do that. You can't really do that on a console. You're sort of stuck with what the publisher and developers said the game should look like. So that's sort of a long-winded way of saying probably yes, I don't know. And then lastly, I've gotten a bunch of comments about this because on a couple of my phones, you'll notice, like on my Note 4, you see that silver ring that wraps around my camera on the Note 4. And so that's I get a lot of questions about that. What's the screen? What's the camera guard, or what's the silver ring on your camera? And this is for a series of magnetic lenses from PhotoJojo. And I've done a review. This is specifically the one I've done a review on. This is a wide angle lens. See, it's like a little metal lens, and it's got a magnetic ring on the back, and you stick it to the back of the phone. And then this can be used for wide angle shots or macro shots. It's kind of a cool, handy little way. And I really like this lens system. It's one of my favorite lens systems in that it's cross-platform. This will work on Windows phones. This will work on iPhones. This will work on Android phones. It doesn't work well on the G4 right now because of the way that the G4 glass around the sensor is seated. The little magnetic discs don't seem to stick on very well. So when you pull the lens off, the disc comes with it. But most other phones, and I'm sure PhotoJojo will probably come out with a slightly different adhesive or a better way to mount that ring, but it's a really fun way to augment your smartphone photography. If you really want to get into some fancy macro work, or you want a fisheye lens, or you want maybe even just a little more zoom, they actually do make a pretty decent zoom lens. They're pretty decent little lens kits. I think each one's around $30. You can get a kit of 3 different lenses for cheaper per lens than that. And it's a lot of fun, but that's the silver ring on my lens. So folks, that was a lot of talking because I had a ton of comments. And if I didn't get to one of your comments, I apologize, but know that I'm probably answering all of your comments with typing for all of the videos and all the people that are asking me questions and dropping me comments. I try to reply to almost everything I can get my hands on, and it is a part-time job all by itself because you guys are awesome, but you also ask a lot of questions. So this is the first comment question roundup. I'll be doing a few more of these, especially throughout the month of July and throughout the summer, definitely, just because I think they're kind of fun to chat out some of the things that we've been working on this channel. Be on the lookout for a few of the reviews we've got coming up. Like I said, I'll be wrapping up the Alcatel. I just got magnet stuff all over it. I'll be wrapping up the Alcatel, and I'll be wrapping up on the desk behind me. You can see 2 Lenovo's. That's the Lenovo LaVie, and then right next to it is the LaVie 360. I already have a review on the LaVie, and I'm now finishing up my review on the 360. It's the flip around screen version, which we're going to be playing with that as well. And then I'm going to be teasing it some more, but I really want you guys to be on the pulse, especially for you guys who are into watching my videos. I want to reward that behavior for you folks out there sharing my content. In that the first week of August, we're going to start prepping for that big Some Gadget Guy birthday giveaway. Big thank yous, shout outs to LG and AT&T for hooking up some phones to give away. And then I'll have a full product list on all the fun things we're going to be giving away probably towards the end of the month. So be on the lookout for that. So folks, definitely keep dropping me all those comments and questions. It's how it helps me produce content like this. And if you have questions and comments, don't be shy. Drop them on my videos, and I'll definitely be looking to interact with that. As always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit subscribe for more videos and reviews like these, because you also don't want to miss out on some of the contests that we've got coming up. And the only way you can do that is if you subscribe, and then you also make sure to look at your subscriptions, because if you just subscribe and then you don't do anything, then you're not going to know what's going on. Them's the breaks. And also, I would not be able to continue producing on this channel if you all weren't out there sharing my videos on Reddit and Twitter. Well, maybe not Reddit right now because they're kind of melting down again. I just moved over to vote.co. So if you want to find me on Vote, I think I've submitted 3 things on Vote, and I've upvoted like 5 things. But you can also find me on Vote too. Twitter, Facebook, the Googles Plus. I can't do this if you folks aren't helping me bring more cool people. I don't want BS trolls and jerks on this channel. I just want cool people who are chill and want to talk about tech. So if you know someone like that and you think they would enjoy these videos, bring them along, because we can always use more cool people on this channel. Hit that thumbs up button, and I will catch you all on the next video.